Today we are going to be looking at Moira Orb Micro. Because like most cooldowns, a well-used cooldown can make the difference between winning a fight and losing a fight. So, we're going to take a look at how to properly use these orbs to get as much value as you can. So let's go to the practice range and talk about orbs. So the very basics about orbs is you get either the healing orb or the damage orb. You don't get both. So you have to decide which orb is going to be better for the situation at hand. Sometimes both are applicable and sometimes neither are. The difference between the orbs is that the healing orb does 300 healing, but the damage orb only does 200. Now this kind of changes how you end up using these orbs, right? Because at the end of the day, the healing orb is just going to be more effective numbers wise. So this is going to just last a lot longer than if I throw it at either of these two guys. But that's okay, because 200 damage is still, well, it's going to insta-kill these bots. Of course, the damage is split between the two. But you don't want to stand in a damage orb. Okay. So, let's start with the heal orb. The orb that your team always wants, but doesn't always get. So, the nice thing about heal orb is it heals 300. Compared to the 200 that a damage orb does, which means it can bring up pretty much every non-squishy from 0 to full health if it's just for that one person. So the heal orb is really strong. You can throw a heal orb at a person, and generally you can just look away from them, assuming that they're able to follow it, and it'll bring them back to full. It resets their fight. Damage orb, it doesn't quite do the same thing for the enemy, because it's not going to insta-kill just by itself. These guys have 200 health and they almost died, but every enemy besides Tracer is not going to die to the orb. It still sucks though. Like, what are you going to do? You can't go in with that little health. So, the rule of thumb for the damage orb is that people don't want to stand in it. It's a very big trade-off to have to stand actively inside of the damage orb just to get a couple shots off. So, we can utilize that really well, and we'll talk about that in a second. Before we go into that, let's talk a little bit more about how to utilize these damage orbs. So the damage orb by themselves does a bit of damage, and it'll likely discourage people from peeking an angle. Obviously it won't always stop them from peeking an angle, but for the time that it is in their face, they are forced to make actions. And actions can create mistakes, and create openings, and that's what you want. So where do we want to go from there? Well, we can stack the damage orb with our right click, and it does 115 damage per second. That can pretty much blow up anyone in 2 seconds if you place your orb well and you can just keep tracking them the whole time. And that's a lot of damage. So that's your main way to get burst with the damage orb. And of course, you can do the same thing with your healing. So let's take a look at the orbs in general. What are the properties of an orb for those who are less familiar? The first thing to keep in mind is that the orb slows down when it's being used. If it's a full health target, it will not slow down for the full health target. That applies for both healing, and it also applies for damaging. See how it goes fast, and then it slows down. So the orb is naturally going to be where the enemies are. Another thing to note is that orbs don't have hitboxes. They cannot be body blocked. The only way to stop these things is if you suck at throwing them, or if specific cooldowns are used, like Genji's Deflect, Sigma's Suck, Diva's Defense Matrix, and Mizuki's Ultimate. I believe those are the main 4 that are going to get in your way. Another thing to keep in mind is that orbs, while they do last 7 seconds, they don't always last 7 seconds. For instance, like I said, the damage orb only has 200 max juice. So if all of that gets used up before those 7 seconds, it just disappears. But it's kind of hard to fully utilize an orb unless you throw it really well. So that's not something you're generally going to have to worry about. You just can't treat it like it's like a healing pylon or just some Kiri that's just pumping you full of heals. It will run out. But if you use it correctly, you should be able to get the advantage in the fight that you're taking. Okay, and on the 7-second cooldown talk, that's something to keep in mind is that the cooldown for the orb is 8 seconds. So you're only going to be down 1 second if you're fully utilizing your orbs. Now this is very dangerous to think about, right? You're like, oh, If I always have an orb active, then why don't always just throw an orb, right? Well, the thing is, in a game, you're not always going to have a perfect opportunity to use your orb. And if you try and keep min-maxing, you're trying to throw them off cooldown, just trying to get as much utilization as you can from that exact moment, you're going to be stuck without an orb for 8 seconds. And that's detrimental. Because that orb is your insurance. It lets you say, oh, I'm not going to be able to heal these guys up fast enough with my left click. Let me throw an orb. And actually, let me prove this point even more by switching these guys to a bit more damage. So you can left click, but look, they're still dying. This orb is your insurance to say, I can help deal with burst damage. Even though you aren't a very bursty support, I can help deal with burst damage. These guys are going to live. The same can apply for you, right? You're taking a fight, you're not sure if you're going to win, you think you might, but say you get hit pretty bad. You can heal up. If you're spending the time to take an angle, and you get poked out, and you don't have a way to heal back up, you have to spend all that time going back to your team. You can fade, yeah, but you'll be out of cooldowns. It's a very big risk. If you're taking a fight, and it's going to be like an even-ish trade, you have your own support. You get a win. As long as you place your orb well, and you know the trade-offs, that orb is going to allow you to take many more fights than you would be able to otherwise. And then, if we add the burst heal perk on top of that, it helps mess with their calculations. Boom. I'm back to full already. And maybe they're reloading. They think they have time. They don't have time. You have infinite health. I say this like very loosely, but having a heal orb with you, more fights. So what does that mean when you're wasting your orb, right? If you're wasting your orb, you're throwing it damage orbs and heal orbs just in random places. Guess what you're not going to be able to do? Is take those extra fights. You're going to be stuck healing your tank the entire time, and you're just throwing your orb, you're like, wow, I can't take any angles. I have my fade, but I'm just going to have to fade back because I don't have an orb to keep me up. I can do like half a health bar, maybe. I take the fight. Oh no. Oh yeah, actually, let me do that situation, but I don't have my orb. Oh, tank, take some damage. And you take a fight, and then you have to fade back. I mean, obviously that wasn't the best example because those bots suck, but you can't fight. It's much harder to fight, it's much harder to push those angles when you're just using your orbs when they don't need to be used. Now this is a good situation. Of course I didn't save him because I was a little too slow, but okay. Let's look at some orb bounces. We're going to start with some simple ones and get a little bit more complex. And I'm not going to say that I know every bounce. I probably didn't think of all of them when I wrote the script, but here are some ideas to get you started. And obviously you can mix and match these and make it how you want to use them. Because at the end of the day, the geometry of the map is so complex. You can do so many crazy things if you just know how to use them correctly. So, most basic orb that everyone knows how to do is just a straight line orb. You throw it, it goes through, and it just does its thing. Now, of course you can get lucky if it like bounces back and it does all this great stuff. The only thing you have in mind with a straight line orb is where do I want it to go. Now this isn't just like basic in that like you're never supposed to use this orb, you're always supposed to have like some grand idea with your orb. Sometimes you just need to walk. And you're like taking damage, you got your orb with you, you get to walk with the orb. Same thing applies with your team. You get to just walk with your team with the orb, get to your destination. That's perfect. And then, of course, sometimes the fight just isn't that complex. You only need one purpose for it. And it's, I need to get this heal orb to this guy, and then we win the fight. Okay, I throw the orb. Boom. Now, I can optimize that even more if I want to, and I'll talk about that in a second. But sometimes you just don't have a wall to bounce off of, and you just need to get it to your guy. So the straight line can also be used for damage orbs as well. It kind of has a similar idea, but instead of helping your team, it's hurting the enemy. You throw it at an enemy, and you get them to be scared. That's it. I don't want you to be in this spot right now. Let me throw a damage orb at you. Now they're going to move around. Depending on how well you place your orb, it will be, more or less effective at stopping them. But throwing the damage orb directly at them, it gets the job done. For the time it is there, it is going to stop them from doing what they want. So, now I want to talk about a different kind of orb bounce that you might end up using a lot. And it's more for closer range fights, especially out in the open, where you can't afford to have this like delay time between the orb leaving and coming back. You just need as much healing or damage as you can right now, and that's throwing it at the floor. And the angle also helps with this. So instead of going a straight line, you get this like V shape, and that keeps the orb in the area of effect for longer, and that allows you to get more healing or more damage. And I can show you an example as well with like these training bots. Let me reset this guy's health. Who has full health? That guy. If I go like this, throw it at the floor, see how it like had this really sharp V? It doubled its time. If I'm on the floor, the same idea applies. It stays longer than going straight through. It's just a very cheap way, because the floor is always the floor. It's always going to be there for you to bounce off of. It's a reliable mechanism to getting you just that much more value, especially when there aren't any walls around to get you that double, that comeback that will help you. So now let's talk about something that's more unique to Moira, and it's the fact that the orbs can bounce where you can't see. There's a bot right there. I can't see him, but guess who can? My orb. If I know there's people over here and say they're like low health and they're like hiding, they're like, haha, I'm behind the corner, you can't shoot me. Well, actually, I kind of can. Okay, I messed that up, but you know the idea. The ability to bounce around corners is super strong for Moira especially, because it means you get to fight in closed areas much more effectively. I can just throw that in, and I know the orb is just going to be messing around over here. This room is denied. You can't be in here. And if you are, you better be like super buff or have a support right there next to you. Either way, you're forcing the enemy's hand, and you're getting a lot of value from it. Sometimes you're going to be fighting in the like straight lines, especially like in New Junk City, Suravasa. What's another example? Rialto. I want to say Circuit, but I really don't want to say Circuit. The idea behind this next orb is utilizing flat walls to extend the life, or double the life rather, of your orbs. So for instance, we go back to the straight line orb, right? Straight line. Heal him a bit, right? That's a decent amount of healing. But what if you could double that, right? I mean, we have the burst orb perk, so it's not going to be exactly double. If I line it up with this flat wall, and I have a flat wall back here as well, the healing comes, it bounces back, healing more, healing more. That's a fully utilized orb. That's completely different. What's especially nice about this is if you know your team is going to be fighting over here, you can go throw this orb, and you can go take your angle. And you know that your team is going to be healthy because your orb is going to keep coming back. Okay, you don't actually know for sure that your team is going to be healthy, but it's a better chance than just some willy-nilly orb, right? Now, it doesn't have to be a flat wall for this to be the same idea. You can bounce it like this to like, actually, this would probably be a good example here. So you want to heal both of these guys, and that's a horrible example. Especially because I messed up. Oh, okay. Nice. Don't keep that in. And what's really nice about the flat wall bounce, actually, is that nobody's expecting it. Nobody's putting it in their calculations that, oh, I'm going to get this orb healing in a little bit, or I'm going to take more damage when this orb comes back. So it can really like put a wrench in people's plans, or give your teammates a second wind that they weren't expecting. Yeah. So that's why I love the flat wall. I learned that from Arcs a long time ago. Just like keep an eye out for those things. The flat walls, and then I'm going to talk about the flat roof here. Do you need an invite?
I do.
Oh, okay. Invite. And of course, you got the flat roof option, where you just like any flat roof, you just get what I like to call a battery. I haven't found very many uses for like the damage orb version, but for the healing orb, it's like really strong in certain situations. Like,
well, what about like a 1v1 in a room?
Yes. Actually, I want to elaborate on that. Actually, that's a really good question. When you do a battery in like a 1v1, especially against a Moira, the Moira who doesn't do the battery actually has an advantage, because she can throw it at walls, like so, and keep moving around. Oh, my orb just keeps getting destroyed because I heal so much. But if you walk around with your orb, like if you throw it on a route, let me take some damage here, and you just keep moving with it, you have the higher chances of getting her to mess up.
Oh, I see.
But when you're fighting around a corner, that is completely true. Like, right here. Let me take some damage. There's nothing they can do to stop me from healing with this orb. I have just the battery set up right here. I effectively have an Yari pylon that cannot be destroyed while I'm fighting here. So they either have to do something, like close the distance and really like go for a hard commit, or they have to just leave because I'm just scary. Or they can die. If they choose to die, that's probably the best option. One of my most favorite orbs that I'm not able to use a lot, actually that's a lie, I do use it quite often, is the slow push orb. Because, for example, let me take some damage here. Thank you, Rocketbot. You can throw the orb in a straight line, and you can walk with it. But sometimes there's enemies around, and you aren't going to be able to just walk at a constant speed, right, and follow that orb. And you're eventually going to lose it. So what you can do instead is a slow push orb, where you throw it at a wall. It'll still bounce around in the general direction, but it'll keep following you at a slower pace. So you have more time to like take those hits and push through. Well, since I'm on this topic, I might as well use the flat roof example as well here. You can do the same thing with a flat roof and just follow it like that. You can actually make it as slow as you want doing that, depending on the angle.
So, if you're looking for moments to be aggressive, do you have any triggers for that?
That's
like something that you see, it's like, that is an opportunity that I have to go in on.
Oh, I like that. Okay, let's talk about that. So, I was talking earlier about how much damage the orb and right click combo does. And it can just absolutely decimate a person's health. So,
Right.
you can use that as a calculation. You're like, okay, I can insta-kill any like 250 HP target in about 2 seconds if I do a hard commit, right? If that's like, if I fade in, throw my orb, and it's either you die or I die. So, if say an Ana doesn't have nade, and she doesn't have sleep, as just like a very obvious example, she has what, 250 health? Then, if you know she's not going to have nade or sleep or help in the next 2 seconds, then you know you can just go in and then do your combo. Use the orb, use the right click, fade if you need to, and just destroy her really quickly. And this is different from just right clicking her normally. Like right clicking does fine, but it takes twice as long, and that's, I want to say more than twice as likely that she's going to get a cooldown back, she's going to get help. Because at the end of the day, it's a matter of how fast are you able to react, are you prepared. And if you take any longer than you need to be, that's just a higher chance that she's going to go get the help she needs, and you aren't going to get that kill.
Okay.
Okay, can you go cast for me as an example?
Yeah.
So, one of the types of orb uses that I still need to work on is using damage orbs to prevent poke damage. So, Cassidy is super annoying because he just gets to stand there and shoot at you. If you need to rotate somewhere, like, you're not just going to say, okay, I guess I'm not going to rotate, or I'm just going to walk across, he's just going to shoot me and I'm going to freaking die. So, what you can do instead, as an option, and it doesn't even have to apply to you, you don't need to be the one that's taking the damage, but if you know that someone needs to rotate, or someone needs to go look at something, and they're going to get shot by this freaking Cassidy, boom. What's he going to do? He's going to take that damage, and he's going to hide for a couple seconds. Maybe even just one. But all the time he's behind that wall, he's not seeing you, he doesn't get the intel, and he has to go and re-peek. And that gives your hit scans or whoever an advantage on them, and you time to walk. And depending on how well you place your orb, like maybe I do this instead, it's going to hit him once, he might peek again, but that damage orb is going to keep following him. And if he's like below half, maybe a Soj just catches him off guard, you just want to fight. So that's a really nice idea. Especially on New Junk City first point, you throw it into that choke at the first opening, what are they going to do? They're going to take 1,000,000 damage, or you're going to be able to develop faster than them. It's a win-win. Speaking on 1,000,000 damage, I want to talk about Ult Charge real fast. So a fully utilized healing orb is going to give you around 12% Ult Charge, and a fully utilized damage orb is going to give you about 6% Ult Charge. So healing in general is going to give you more Ult Charge, but it's not necessarily Moira's strongest suit. We'll talk about that maybe in a different video. But That's not what's important right now. We're talking about orbs. Let's talk about something very similar to preventing poke damage, and that is lane control. So, actually, can you come up here?
Yeah.
Say you're trying to push up this lane, right? He only has two options. It's either push up the lane or stay behind. Now, if I throw this orb here, he has to decide really quickly. And I'm right here, right? He has to fight me. And if I have backup, it's just obvious he has to back up. But that damage orb is going to be really detrimental to him. It's like a Junkrat. You don't want to walk into a closed area with a Junkrat. You don't want to walk down these tight hallways when Moira has a damage orb. Because it's just so much pressure, and you're going to be slowed down incredibly because of it. Next is probes. Probes are super fun. They don't get used a lot because obviously it costs your orb to do so. But what costs more than an orb is your health and the potential to die. Especially against a Cassidy or a Reaper or like anything that can have a one shot, like a Widowmaker per se. If you want to know where a Widowmaker is, you can just throw the orb where you think she is, and then if it does damage, you know she's there. And this can help you make more decisions and take less damage, which inevitably might save your fade, allow you to take a deeper angle, and communicate advantages to your team. One idea I like to do a lot for this is King's Row first point. You throw the damage orb at the top, and because that up area isn't actually a safe zone, if the Widowmaker is hiding anywhere up there, it's going to do damage, and then you know she's there. And if she's not, you don't have to spend half the game jiggle peeking to see if she's going to peek, if she's like stalling, if she's waiting a couple seconds before finally going to decapitate you, you know? And that can allow your team to develop quickly before they end up getting to the choke. That can be a huge advantage. And in case I didn't explain it already, probing is when you throw the orb, and if it does damage, you're not doing any damage, right? So if you're getting damage ticks, then you know something's there. Like my orb, it's over there somewhere, yeah. It just damaged this standard bot over here. And I didn't even know he was there. I mean, he's always going to be here, but I didn't know he was in that exact spot. And if you can predict where your orb's going to be at certain times, you can kind of guess where they are. So they're going to be over there. Okay. Let's talk about offensive orb usages. The previous stuff was about developing and defensive orbs. These are more offensive utilities for it, and some of these might be kind of obvious, but I also want to go over them. First one is to be able to sustain a teammate, right? You just get to use an orb, it keeps them up, and like especially in like a Tracer 1v1 across the map, if you throw a heal orb to like burst your Tracer up real fast, then that's going to give them an advantage, and they're inevitably going to win that fight, assuming they're not like dog water. My Tracer player is not dog water, so I always throw the orbs.
True.
And that happened one time. I remember I threw an orb at our Tracer player, and he ended up winning that fight. And like I was talking about for denying angles, this also applies, or consequently also means you're negating poke damage for your team. And stopping poke damage means that you don't have to heal. So if you throw a damage orb while you're developing, and you just like throw it at someone, or even after you're developed and someone's taking an angle, throw a damage orb at him. What are they going to do? Either they have to hide for a couple seconds and you get to develop more. To be honest, I don't even really want to talk about how the damage orb refills your meter, because I think that's super cool. But I don't think in any situation should you rely on your damage orb to refill your meter. A fully utilized orb fills 15%. Tell me how much 15% is going to help you, bro.
What if your team is like walking forwards as a group and they are full HP?
If they're full HP, and you're out of juice, I assume?
Assuming you just healed them and you're out of juice.
Right, okay. Yeah, that'd be a decent chance for an orb. Not because I think it should be your go-to, but you're completely right in that like, that's a situation that like you really need your juice before this fight starts. A damage orb in that case can be really helpful. I still want to reiterate, you should never rely on the damage orb to bring your juice back, but if you combine that with like what I was talking about earlier by negating poke damage, now you don't have to heal and you're getting your juice back. Now another option instead of using your damage orb to get your juice is to frontline. Now against some comps that might be too risky, like especially against Pharah or Junkrat, where your fate is almost most likely going to be forced. But sometimes you're able to be up in the front, and you can create a battery instead, because you can fully charge in like 4 seconds. If you're just using the battery, taking damage, healing yourself, and you're gonna get tons of ult charge as well. So really, I would only recommend using the damage orb to get your juice back if you're stuck in a hard place and you can't take the fights yourself. Let's talk about Orb Economy. I think economy is one of the most slept on things, especially in lower ranks. When I VOD people, I notice people are very eager to use their cooldowns when they don't need to be used. So let's talk about how to get the most value from the cooldowns that you do end up using. Throw the orbs where they're going, not where they are. So let's go to this situation over here, where the bots are moving left and right. If I throw the orb directly where they're at, it is barely anything. But if you know where they're trying to go, and it's not random, people are going to go in places very predictably. If they're like low health, low cooldowns, they're going to head towards cover, they're going to head towards their teammates. You know where they're going to go, so throw it there, not where they currently are, because they don't want to be where they are either. They're just going to leave. So if you throw it where they want to be, like this guy, he's going towards cover. Let's throw a damage orb where his cover is going. Now he either has to stand in the open and get shot by your teammates, or take the damage from the orb and go behind cover. Neither option's good. It's like the option between getting checkmated or losing your queen. That's what you want to do. So along with that, another way to get tons of value, aside from just throwing the orbs where they're supposed to be, is throwing them for more than one purpose. So when you throw an orb, you obviously have one main purpose. I want to heal my team, I want to stop this angle from being peaked, I want to see if there's an enemy hiding on the top of King's Row first point, right? What else can you do with your orb after it's done, right? If I'm healing my teammates, this is going to get fully used up, so I don't need to think about another thing. But say in a situation where you're trying to do damage to someone and you know they're going to leave after a little bit, and you're going to have a couple extra seconds for your orb to do something else. Well, let's throw it towards a second group as well. I could throw this orb a million different ways to hit this tank bot for as much as I just did. But instead, I throw it towards another group of people, so that once the orb is done doing its first job, it can go do a second job. And this is no more true than healing yourself and then healing teammates. Say you're taking a fight, you're crit, you go hide somewhere safe, you throw the heal orb, you get the burst benefit, throw the orb where your teammates are second, so that secondary value does not get wasted. You're not going to be able to stand with your orb the whole time, so why not throw it somewhere where your teammates can use it after you're done using it? And this can go for an infinite number of levels. It probably gets harder and harder to utilize the very last few seconds that you get, as well as finding the right bounces for all that to work out. But first and second value, I would say, are definitely important. Especially like, take out a situation, but instead of healing my teammates after I heal myself, I just go like this. Okay, I'm back to full, but look, my teammates are dead. The same situation happened, but instead of throwing it to my team afterwards, I threw it into the abyss. I'm wasting my orb. That's 4-6 seconds that could be healing my teammates. Instead, I threw it into the abyss. And this inevitably is going to make you feel like you have to heal your teammates more. They're just going to be like, oh, I can't heal them enough, bro. They're always taking damage. It's because you're wasting your healing orbs. Don't waste your healing orbs. Get as much value as you can from them, as much as possible. And when you do so, you're going to realize you're going to be able to take a lot more angles and stop them from doing the damage in the first place. I didn't kill him fast enough, but you get the idea. Take a look at the cooldowns for your orb, right? It's 8 seconds. We just talked about that. Coal also lasts 8 seconds. So there is objectively zero reason not to throw an orb before coaling. It's just that much more value to you, much more control. And when you stack these, 135 damage per second. A damage orb plus coal. That's excluding the perk. But that's a lot of freaking damage. To the point where I want to say, if you're able to, if you have the luxury to, wait 1 to 2 seconds if it's on cooldown, just to sync it up with your coal, because it's just that much stronger, and can allow you to do much more with the coal than you would otherwise. Especially if you're expecting to take a lot of damage, being able to stack a healer with your coal gets you so much more self-heal, and they're gonna feel like freaking goobers for ever trying to like kill you out of it. The last thing you want to do is get killed out of coal.
How long would you actually wait for your orb cooldown to combo it with coalescence?
That's a great question. If it really depends on the situation, right? Sometimes you just have to coal immediately. There's no question about it. Sometimes you have a little bit of wiggle room. It really depends on the risk versus reward. I argue that the reward is worth about 2 seconds. Other than that, it's probably just worth coaling, because 2 seconds a lot can happen. That's kind of the sweet spot I found. When I was like looking for clip examples for this, I really felt there was no time to wait for the orbs, to be honest. But definitely keep it in mind as an option if you do find yourself in a situation like that, because the orb can really change the fight outcome.
Then a follow-up for that, would you go into a fight planning on saving your orb for coalescence?
Oh, very much so.
If there was even if it was like 4 seconds, 5 seconds of wasted time.
Yeah, I think so actually, because the secondary to your orb, right, is your healing. Though you would want to use your orb to get your team alive while you're trying to go do stuff. But if you're planning on using your coal, you can use that juice to keep your team alive and hold on to that orb, because you know that when you coal, that juice is all going to come back. It regenerates so much faster, and you don't have to use your orb because you already have a plan in mind for it.
You think the burst potential is better than the possibility of more usage overall?
I think so, because the alternative to using the healing orb is just healing with your left click, and the alternative to using a damage orb is just damaging with your right click. Both of the risks you lose from that: you lose your healing meter if you're left clicking, you lose some health if you're attacking someone, right? Coal replenishes both. It gives you self-heal and it regenerates your healing meter. So you can just use your raw resources instead, and then use your orb afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, if you have a great use for it already, then you might as well use it, because you still will get your orb back at the end of coal regardless. I guess is probably what you're asking, but oh, I forgot about Doomfist. Doomfist can also eat your orb with the perk, and Orisa.
Oh, power block. Yeah.
Yeah. There's 2 more things I want to talk about before ending this tutorial. Is body blocking. Actually, I might put us in a custom game for that, because I think that's super important. The nice thing about Roadhog is that he actually has a theoretical body block as well as a physical one, right? Even if I'm right here, I can't walk past him. He's just gonna hook me, bro. So if Hog walks into the path of my orb, I'm not gonna be able to follow it. The same applies for Cass. Probably Reaper too. Anything that I can't get close to. They can all just stop me from following the route of my orb, because I'll just freaking explode. So that's what an enemy's going to try and do if they realize that you kind of need your orb to succeed in the fight. Is they're just going to try and separate you from it. I think that's pretty much everything. I throw that damage orb to add more pressure to them. Yeah, I'm going to stop it here actually. That was a straight line orb, because all I wanted to do was add pressure. That was the only thing. It also bounces off this flat wall if they decide to stay here. The biggest thing is just keeping the pressure on them. Our team is fully here and engaged, so that was the whole reason for that orb. The orb I want to focus on here is this next one. So right now, I'm too low to really engage anything, and I really don't want to get one shot by the Genji, so I fade up to this high ground and I throw my heal orb. I could throw my heal orb any direction, right? Because I have the burst heal. I could actually heal more if I just followed it, which I end up doing actually this way. But I aim towards where my Zarya is walking. I don't aim it directly at my Zarya. I know my Zarya is going to be walking this way, and that also gets the secondary value that I'm looking for. Because ideally, I have as much juice as I can coming up into this next fight, because that's where the enemy is going to be fighting the hardest. So, I see this Genji, right? Let me actually rewind a little bit. The Genji's looking for an opportunity, right? He wants to poke. And to do so, he needs to peek. And his end goal here is to try and get someone low enough that he can dash in, get the reset, and dash out. He does not want us getting to that checkpoint. So, he's doing this because he has this escape. He can always go behind cover and then come back out. He can peek 3 people, it's okay. So what I want to do is I want to use this orb to give him a juxtaposition. If I put the orb here, he has to decide, do I want to stay out or do I want to stay in? If I stay in, I'm going to probably go need to get healed. If I stay out, this Moira is going to mess me up. I'm giving him 2 bad options with this orb. He decides it's not worth it, I'm going to go back. It was already scary, there were 2 beam characters. I was just trying to manage the angle here coming into this fight. We end up having to kite anyways, but that doesn't matter. So this is an escort orb. I'm throwing the orb so that we can walk together and I can apply some damage as well to the support. This one's also an escort orb. I was intending for us to keep walking here. Of course we don't have to force that, but it sets us up for the opportunity to do so. We decide not to, so we walk away. This one was a probe orb. I wanted to know, do I need to stay here and help my cast out? Are there going to be enemies around that I'm going to have to deal with? And this orb told me exactly what I needed to know. If it's dealing damage, that means I know there's a hostile here. So I stick around. I actually ping him a couple times. And the caster size is not worth it, so we keep going. That one was just an escort orb, because I wanted to have the opportunity to walk this way, and to do so I want to keep my team as full health as possible while I do such. This one's a battery. Soldier's really strong in this position, so I want to make sure that he is as healthy as possible to get the job done. He's also going to be important in protecting me from this Reaper. Fortunately, I have to give up the space anyways. That one was just a self-heal. No one was crit, so I didn't need to throw it anywhere else. So here, I throw a slow push orb. It's going to bounce a couple times around here, and even though the reality didn't happen, the reason I threw this is because I thought Reaper was going to start walking this way. And if he does that, then he's going to start splitting us from our Domina, and we can't have that. So by doing a slow push orb here, we are inevitably going to have to kite the Reaper. He just wins the fight. But by doing a slow push, we're able to hold the space slower, or we're able to give up the space slower, and therefore give us a higher chance at taking this Reaper out and reconnecting with our Domina. That one was a corner bounce orb. I don't want to be LOSing all this scary stuff, but I also want to be getting that ult charge and stopping them from poking us as we kite out here. Throw that orb because I thought the Reaper was going to walk. Sometimes I can just predict that because I have a full healing meter and I can take more risks like that. This one was to stop her from peeking this corner, and by doing so I know she's going to come over here. I get to kind of control where she gets to look. Also conveniently, I'm not sure if I was thinking about this at the time, but by stopping her from positioning where she wants to here, she has to go somewhere where the Juno's going to have a harder time healing her. Notice how the Domino was able to walk up so much farther because the Sojourn wasn't there. This one's a walk orb. Notice I'm throwing it where she's going. There's only one place she can go and it's right here, so I just throw the orb there. And I think I actually get the bounce on it as well. She ends up going to the top left, which I didn't expect. But I followed her where she was going. That's what's the important part here. This one was a no peek orb. I could have done it to heal my team, but because I know they're here, I want to soften them up. My goal is to walk up to the left. So by dealing some damage, stopping them from peeking here, I can try and get them to be more passive. I don't have to worry about healing my tank. I don't have to worry about these people as much. Of course, they can still take damage. They can still die, especially because of that rail. But it's the best option I had, because I'm not going to be able to heal a rail headshot anyways. So I might as well get the damage in and prepare them for my arrival with Cass. That one was just another one to prepare them, because I'm not going to be there with them, and I can take my time up here. Okay, that orb, that one is going to deny them from peeking this. If they want to start shooting me and preventing me from walking up, this orb's going to stop them from doing that. It's also indoors, so it's going to bounce around all the just pretty much everywhere, soften them up. It's going to discourage them from holding the space. And if they do intend to hold the space, they're going to have less cooldowns. Alright, so I'm just being a menace. And eventually they're like, okay, he's just going to keep throwing damage orbs in here, and I'm not going to be able to do anything. So the Soj leaves. The Yari didn't get the message, so she's a little slow to the party. I'm doing this to try and get that insta kill. It combos with the Domina ult, and she just exploded. I throw that orb because I just want to get some ult charge off of my healing before I die. That one was just a single purpose, keep him alive, did the job. Single purpose. Especially considering, like, the soldier, I have no clue what he's going to do. So I just throw it in a way that it's kind of going to help regardless of where it's going to be. Got the straight line value, and that's what matters, because he lived. And it there's just self-heal. I bounce it off the wall so I can keep it longer in case the Wu Yang tries to, like, hit me. Obviously, sometimes he will, but it's insurance. Might as well. This one's a walk orb. Cass is wanting to go in. He's literally right on the corner, and I'm ready to support him with that forward orb. It's another walk orb. Unfortunately, the Cass did not live. There was physically nothing I could have done about it. You're just gonna have to believe me because I'm not gonna waste your time. Once again, I'm throwing that orb because I think the Reaper's gonna walk. He really did not want to walk very often, I will say, but that's not gonna stop me from preemptively throwing that orb, because I know that soldier would need it. Okay, he does actually walk, he just takes a little bit longer. Is what it is. Not every orb is going to be perfect. That one was just a straight line, because everyone needed to get a bit of burst healing. I throw it at this flat wall. It's probably not going to bounce the best, but it's going to come back eventually. That one was a Hail Mary. I didn't know where the Life Weaver was going to go, especially because I didn't know the Juno was there. So I threw the orb thinking he was going to rat here. He ends up jumping over this way. It's whatever. I used Cold to top him off instead. Thank goodness he lives. Okay, that orb's just for more pressure. It's going to bounce between this and just really deny this area. Meaning I can focus more on the Reaper and the Juno over here. And as long as that orb isn't doing damage, it means that this corner is clear and that I don't have to worry about a Soj peeking and like one-shotting me while I go do stuff. I end up not doing much with it, but it's what it is. That was one of the fast kill orbs, right? Not much more to say about that. This was attempted a probe. I had a feeling a Reaper was here, and I wanted to see how he'd react to it. It ends up bouncing backwards somehow. I don't know how that happened, but I used Fade instead to do the same job. I use that to make sure he doesn't die. I throw it at the floor here to get that V. I assume he's going to be staying near these windows, so the V is just the better option here. If I'm not scared of getting railed, I can do a vertical on either of these. But of course, I could get railed, and then I would die. Then it wouldn't even matter. I try to save him. Doesn't work. So I can't get direct LOS of the Reaper, and I don't know which way he's gonna go. So uniquely, I throw the orb right here, so that if the Reaper wants to walk this way, the orb will hit him, and if he wants to walk back to his team, the orb will also hit him. So it's like a multi-purpose orb. I kind of like that. He ends up coming with me, and we connect and kill this Wu Yang. I think. I hope. No. Self-heal orb. That was the only reason I was even allowed to walk here. I'll show you from this perspective. Right, having this heal orb on the cooldown allowed me to survive that. Now if I didn't have that orb, it's very possible that a Wu Yang would just his projectile would just come around and kill me, or this Juno could finish me off. So it's very important that I had that orb. And the Juno was convinced I didn't have it either. That's to help the Reaper walk. He ends up teleporting. I was pretty proud of that orb, I'm not gonna lie. It just got the extra damage that the Soj wasn't expecting. What was really important about the orb, instead of me just standing here and doing the damage myself, is the chance that Soj turns around and 180s me. And she almost tries to do that. I watched it from her perspective as well. She does this. No clue. Excuse me, suck. She turns around. I'm already gone. The orb finishes her off, which helps me manage risk, and it just gets all that damage in that I need. Orb content. This is from a scrim earlier I did with my team. I assumed the Hazard was going to fight me there, so I threw an orb preemptively. Because Hazard fights uniquely take quite a while. So if you throw an orb early, then you might get one just in time before you're about to die, and it couldn't save you. That one was a hallway orb. I kind of zoned out, but yeah, that one was a hallway orb. What this does is says, do you want to walk down this hallway? I don't think so. This is exactly the thing with Mint. He was the Cass. You either have to commit, or you have to walk back. And I just denied this Kiri the ability to commit. We got Suzu out as well, and TP. So now they're on the complete back foot. So I see my Genji's going up here. I throw him a heal orb because I'm definitely not going to be able to make it up there, especially without my jump perk. So that orb is just going to go help him if he wants to stay up there. Also, I should point out as well, it's going to bounce off this wall, so it doubles its lifetime. Just as a little extra little thing. So we're on the back foot here. I try and set up like a very poor man's battery. If I had a bit more time, I could set up vertically here, but I didn't anticipate to survive long, so it was more important that I get the ult charge from it than getting a perfect battery. I throw this orb so that it will stay in this room with Guitar Man or our Zen player. In case he needs to go and fight stuff, it'll keep him at 100%, allowing him to drop whenever he needs to. That's what I decided was the most important thing in this scenario, because I am able to heal my Genji here with my left click if I need to. So the orb should be used for something that I'm not able to immediately get to. In this case, that's our Zen. I thought this orb because I know that Kiri's back there, and I really wanted to kill her. Which ends up happening. The slow push. This is the orb upcoming here that I really want to talk about from this map. So they just like get a lot of damage into me. And I know I'm gonna have to get back in there soon, because they just used 2 ults. Our Rissa's gonna need a lot of help here. But you know, I'm like super crit. And so how can I get as close as possible to the fight and heal up at the same time? I could throw a battery, right? And that would heal me up to full, but I kind of have to stand still here, and I can't keep moving. So what I do instead is I throw a slow push orb. It's going to bounce between these hallways, and it's a 50-50 about which side the orb's going to bounce on. I wanted it to bounce on the left, so I could have made it a bit tighter or thrown it on the other wall to start off with. But by throwing it so it bounces back and forth, I'm able to keep moving. I'm able to start connecting with my Orisa as I heal up, instead of just waiting to heal up with a standard battery. And if it works out, of course it didn't work this time, but the orb will continue to follow me up until the staircase, so I can stay full for much longer. Ends up going to that staircase instead, unfortunately. That orb was just to keep it in the fighting area. That one was a probe orb. I heard the grapple, but I wasn't sure if she was going to be there. I threw it poorly though, and it didn't actually do the job that I wanted it to. Doesn't mean for lack of trying though. So I considered really heavily throwing a damage orb into this room. The thing is, there's nothing really stopping the Weing from walking forward, or walking back, but really more walking forward. And I don't have the resources to really punish him for moving either. So the damage orb only helps the Weing continue to develop. And because I didn't force the Weing to commit to one side, they stayed in the room, and I was able to mess them up earlier. Of course, the Widow cleaned them up instead. And thank you guys all for watching. This is one of my first like long tutorial videos, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I'll get better over time. That's why I wanted to start with the orb, because I feel like the fade and the other things are just much more in depth. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching, and hopefully I make another one soon. We'll have to see.